Welcome to another edition of the Sports Roundup. I am your host, Brandon Glogau, and today we are joined by two-time World Series champion from the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs, Ryan Kalish. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm here in Bali. I'm like basically the opposite time zone as you. So it's good that we could line this up and make it happen.
Definitely. So good morning here. You're just getting your day started, and we're wrapping it up
Yeah,
here on in the East Coast, opposite side altogether.
yeah,
Um, so I want to jump right into it.
sure.
You're originally from New Jersey. And what
Yep.
happened was you're very close proximity to New York, Boston, or Philadelphia. So when your name was called that you were drafted by the Boston Red Sox, first off, were you a Yankee fan, Phillies fan, going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that
So
draft?
I was a Yankees fan for most of my life. All my friends were Yankees fans, but my parents were originally from Boston, so it was a very special moment for us as a family because obviously, like once you get drafted, it's time to kind of put your fanhood allegiance behind you and just play. But for my mom and dad, it was pretty crazy. Okay, like my son is drafted by the team we were loving and supporting for our entire life. So pretty easy to make the transition over to just Red Sox all day.
That's awesome. And for sure, in baseball and basketball, it's two different sports. In football, when it comes to getting drafted, usually football and basketball, you're actually at the draft. Baseball, you're usually home or somewhere else. Were you guys at the draft or were you guys home?
No, actually, we were in the middle of my high school graduation ceremony, and it ended up becoming quite a special moment for me. I had a feeling I knew they were going to draft me. So I had a Red Sox hat with me. And so as we were literally proceeding into the ceremony, I get a call from Jason McLeod, one of the guys in the organization, and he says, "We drafted you." And, I kind of like broke out of the line, went and hugged my parents. It was like a nice auditorium setting, lots of people there, and everyone basically gave me an ovation. And it was like pretty cool moment for everyone because there were many coaches and teammates and families and friends that were a part of the journey to get me there. So it was very nice.
That's probably a graduation not only for you, but all your classmates and teammates that were there that will probably never forget. To be able to get that phone call right there. That's probably the most incredible graduation ceremony that there probably was. Um, with that being
Yeah, it was
said,
nice.
when you get drafted, you have to go through the whole minor league organization and just continue to develop to make sure you're ready to go through the show. During your time through the minor leagues, you're in a clubhouse with guys that have two of the same goals. One is to ultimately win the championship for the team that you're with, and then the other goal is
Mm-hmm.
ultimately to get the call to the show. So, with that being said, was there any competition amongst each other to really try and outplay each other, or were you guys just there together as brothers and trying to win the championship together in one show?
I think it was unsaid, it was unspoken competition, but of course, there was, that was a part of it. If somebody was doing super good and super well and you weren't, there was this feeling of jealousy for sure. I remember feeling that when I was in a slump or my stats weren't as good as somebody else's. It was this internal feeling of like, oh man, I was doing that well, but you wouldn't really say it out loud. That wasn't the way it was, and of course you were happy for your teammate, but it's a little bit of both, and that's a part of what makes navigating your way to the big leagues intense process, because it's not only like outward emotion, but it's how you process the internal emotions of the jealousy of other people, the pressure from the media, the pressure from your organization, and how you deal with that on your own, it can be very intense from multiple angles.
Definitely, for sure. Now being in Boston, you're dealing with one of the biggest markets in sports. New York is probably first, and Boston would probably be second. But
Yeah.
that being said, during your time in the minor leagues, the media can really make or break a player's success. Did you have someone there that really trained you how to talk to the media throughout the minor league process and leading up to the pros? So that way, you didn't accidentally say anything that could be something that could affect you and your teammates going forward?
Um, Honestly, not really. There was a little here or there, but in the end, it was no. It was kind of like you have to navigate that on your own, and you get some experience and some exposure during the minor leagues. But for sure, it's like an entirely different world once you make it to the major leagues, and you're playing on TV every night, and you have, for example, in like Pawtucket at the time in AAA, you might have a few media members come in after a game or before, but some days you would have none. Whereas, when you get to Boston, you have 15, 20 people before and after games trying to find out the scoop, ask questions about the good or bad things you did that day. So it's very difficult to really train for the big leagues before you get there as far as media.
So you spent about 4 years through the minor league organization, and you got
Yeah.
called up in 2010, and you made an
Yep.
immediate and you really made an impact and really made a name for yourself, making some huge highlight reels. In fact, in your first year, the Red Sox named you their team rookie of the year. And we could just go over some highlights from your rookie year. You hit your first career home run against the Yankees at Yankee
Yeah.
Stadium. And so what was that moment like? Just rounding the bases. I'm sure you heard a lot of boos, Sunday night baseball, Red Sox, Yankees. What was that moment like, though?
Yeah. So it was definitely the most, like, even just talking about this, I haven't really uncapped these memories in quite some time. It was definitely really special. My family was there, which was really, really nice. But for me, I really wanted to, I don't know, act very calm and very cool and very collected as a veteran would do. I just, I don't know why, but that was just my style. But I remember, like, after going around the bases, touching home plate on my way back to the dugout, there, like, I've seen the highlight and you can see like this smirk come from me, that it's just like, okay, like, you really just, you made your dream. You're playing like against Derek Jeter at the time because he wasn't retired. Um, and he was my guy growing up. So it's just like, holy, I can't believe I really did that. Um, so that moment was, yeah, it was really, really cool.
Something that the broadcasters used to talk about a lot during Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. They used to talk about you a lot about how Terry Francona, your former manager, and how David Ortiz just really admired the way you played the game of baseball and just the character you brought to the team. Talk about your relationship you guys had with both David Ortiz and Terry Francona.
Yeah, so they were both amazing, amazing people. And I think that the the attitude that I tried to take was, I really respected the totem pole, right? As a rookie, you want to, like, kind of not speak but be spoken to. So you want to, be quiet, kind of just like respect all these guys who have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years at the big league level. So that was one of the things I remember. Actually, Tim Wakefield told me, he said, you're one of my favorite, if not my favorite, rookies of all time. And the reason is because I can feel that you're scared of us, like, in a respectful way. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, I mean, at that time, Tim Wakefield was 44 and I was 22. So he's literally double my age. and he could really feel that I respected all of them and like them coming before me and being there. So I think both of them could feel that, Terry Francona and David Ortiz, and that's a part of why we enjoyed our time together.
For sure.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I said earlier that they named you the team rookie of the year. Did they do anything for you for that? And how much confidence did that give you to go into your next full season potentially?
Well, they had like an award ceremony with all the writers that I attended in Boston during the off season. Yeah, man, I had confidence for sure, but one of the things that I think most baseball players can relate to is it's like the moment you think you have it all figured out is the moment that you have nothing figured out, and that was something that I think helped me stay pretty consistent, especially as a hitter. It was that, you know, you could have like this amazing streak, 10 for 20 with 3 homers in the last 5 games. But the moment that I got too confident was like the moment I was going to have a slump. So for me, things were feeling really good for sure, but there was no, it was confident, but very humble and ready to work.
So after your rookie season, talk about what goes into a player like you who's an everyday player potentially in the outfield. I know pitchers have different routines. What routine did you get into during the off season that led into spring training? And talk about what you do to train for the upcoming season.
Well, number one, I'd say I probably trained too much because I'm assuming soon we'll probably discuss my injuries. But I was very intense. I wanted to be the best. I think if I could have gone back, I would have done about 50% less, actually. For example, after a knee surgery, one of my seasons, I remember training at the Santa Monica Stairs in LA, which is like this very steep incline, and you're running up these stairs, and it's like I did it because it felt good and I wanted to be great, but I didn't need to do that. So a lot of it was, high intensity weightlifting, a lot of sprints, of course, batting. But I think it's something to be said for, working smart rather than working hard. Of course, working smart is working hard, but it's just like at some point you have to be like, you don't have to take 300 swings in a day. You could take 100 as long as they're super quality, or you know what I mean. So yeah, they were intense for sure. I really wanted to be great, and yeah, 5-tool athlete, 5-tool baseball player, you definitely need to train more aspects of the game than, let's say, of course, a pitcher. But yeah, I could have done less.
Talk about you were part of the Boston Red Sox 2013 run to the World Series championship. After winning the World Series, just talk about what it's, one can only imagine what it's like, that celebration in the clubhouse, popping a champagne bottle. What's that moment like, just being there? You guys fought so hard from day one in spring training. It's every team's goal to win the World Series championship, and you guys made it happen. So what was that moment like in the clubhouse celebrating with each other?
Well, actually, I wasn't in the clubhouse at the time because this year, I want to say I had 2 of these surgeries. So I kind of celebrated from a distance. I was in Fort Myers at the spring training facility. But of course, we had our own little celebration. It was, super nice. But yeah, in the end, it was, like I said, a bit bittersweet because after basically after my breakout season in 2010, it was a very injury riddled career from then on. So um, yeah, but of course, man, I mean, still, like, I have these 2 rings, which are just incredibly special rings. And especially, I mean, Boston was amazing, but that Cubs ring after, you know, the 100+ years drought, they really did it special. So it was really good.
So we'll talk into the injuries now.
Yeah.
God, he had a couple shoulder and neck surgeries, and it led to eventually you getting released at one point, or your contract
Yeah.
ran out. Talk about what you were going through, trying to get back to the show before landing with the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, so it was a lot, man. It was a lot of injuries in a very short period of time. Well, you know, not really short, but yeah, I ended up in total. I think it was I had one minor surgery when I was young, in I think 2007. But then in 2011 through 2016 or 17, I had 13 of these surgeries. So it's like a lot of time rehabbing, um, a lot of time reproving myself, a lot of short stints back in the big leagues. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, it was very tough to escape. It felt like, you know, at some point I would be healthy for like 2, 3 months, and then all of a sudden something new would come up. So it got quite frustrating, of course. But for sure, one of the things that, you know, I think was special about my career was, I don't know how many people could take on that many injuries. And I think I made 5 or 6 different comebacks from a long surgery over 6 months, rehab, back into AAA, do really well, and get called up. So there was definitely a lot of enduring injuries and fighting in the career that I had. So that's something that was cool.
Talk about when you're going through rehab and you're injured when you're on an active roster. Are you doing rehab and training with team doctors, or are you on your own at that point and just getting, from your own personal doctors?
No, there was so some of the injuries I rehabbed with the team, and then there was a few that were like uh, I preferred, and also the team preferred that I do the rehab with the doctor's team in wherever. Like I did a rehab in LA, I did a different rehab in Colorado. So yeah, there was different circumstances for different situations.
For sure. So now you're trying to make your way back to the league, and just
Mm.
shows determination. What was it about the Chicago Cubs? Talk about that conversation you had, and how grateful were you for that opportunity, and what a time to be a Cub.
Yeah, it was. So I had offers at the time. I think I can't keep the years together. I want to say it was 2014. Yeah, 2014. And I had offers from Red Sox and Cubs. Both were very good for, you know, a minor league, major league contract. Ultimately, I decided to kind of follow Theo Epstein, and go to the Cubs. It was like a fresh start, really really nice organization, new facility, and obviously, 2014. And actually 2015 I wasn't with them, I was rehabbing, but I got back to the organization for the big season 2016. um, and yeah, man, it was a really cool time to be a part of everything. um, the playing with Anthony Rizzo again, somebody I played with super early in my career with the Red Sox. But yeah, ultimately it was that organization super special, and what we were able to do in 2016 was really cool.
For sure. What was it like being on that World Series float in Chicago? I mean, I know that was just an emotional parade for Rizzo and David Ross. they called him Grandpa Ross and just what he brought to the team. And
Uh,
now, now he's managing over there. So, someone like David Ross really meant so much to him. And, what was that like?
So this was a very similar situation to 2013. Basically, that was my last professional year because of the injuries. But what happened in 2016 was, you know, I was lucky enough to and really rehab my body well enough for some time, and I played super well for the first month of AAA with the Iowa Cubs. Um, and I got called up, and I got 12 days on the roster with Chicago. But at that time, right towards the end of my first month in the minors, my knee, which was the problem at the time, it felt like it was healthy and it was still recovering. And then one day it kind of just gave out again. So my 12 days in the big leagues, they really weren't that fun. I was in a lot of pain, and I kind of knew, okay, I've hit this place again where I'm gonna have to, try or have a surgery or do something to heal this. There's no way I can continue to play at this level of pain. So the when we won, I was actually in Colorado, and I had just had like my last surgery during my career, and it was a very intense surgery, like where they basically broke my bone in my knee, reshifted everything around. So it was a special moment for my family and me because my mom and dad were there. And it was just more like I guess, like I said earlier, a culmination of like, okay, you know, I I really I really fought through the injuries, and I pushed my body to places that I don't know how many other uh, Major League Baseball players have endured as many surgeries as I did, and also had the ability to take 12 to 16 months off, and then all of a sudden, you know, after that, go recalibrate my swing at the AAA level, and then eventually, very quickly, make it back to the big leagues. In fact, in 2016, I felt like I was the best player I had ever been, and at that moment, I had, 5 years, 12 surgeries, barely played, but my mindset was so locked in on how to make a comeback and how to do this process that, yeah, it was definitely at some point I could have given up in the middle of all these surgeries. And if I had given up, I would not have arguably the most special ring in baseball history, the 2016 Cubs World Series. So, yeah, again, it was me celebrating on my own. So a little bittersweet for sure, but still very cool.
That's awesome. So right now, from what I understand, you have your own Pilates business.
Man, I've shifted quite a bit. I tried some Pilates business. Now I'm actually into real estate here in Bali. Um, so yeah, I mean, post baseball has been an interesting time for sure. It's a lot of trial and error with new careers, a lot of battles with mental health. Stepping outside of the game for me was super difficult in the first 2, 3 years. Now it's been about 4.5 or 5, I think. Hard to keep track of the time, but uh, now things have really settled in well and doing much better with everything.
That's great. Do you still have you had any thought about going back to the game in a coaching role?
So yeah, actually, briefly I did. I worked for the Dodgers. I can't remember the year, maybe 2018. Um, I did for a little bit, but then briefly also, I thought, okay, maybe my knee is okay and I can try and play again. So I did another brief stint of playing in in a league in Australia just to kind of see how do I feel. Knee was really bad again. Like anytime I start twisting on my knee or doing lateral movement, my knee can be pretty finicky and very painful. So I quickly figured out that that wasn't for me. For at the moment, there is always this feeling inside me. I guess number one, being around the game after of course, I wanted my career to be much more than it was. The injuries were very, they took a lot of what I wanted away as far as baseball was concerned. And after retiring, it was very difficult for me to be around the game. And there was definitely a lot of thoughts around, okay, like there's also this feeling of like, I want to prove to myself that I can have a career outside of this comfort zone of baseball. Um, and obviously now I'm out here. I'm in Bali. I met my fiance here. She's listening over here on the bed. She's French. We're having a baby in 6 weeks. Super amazing times for me. And maybe one day I'll come back to the game in some capacity. But I think as a human, my evolution wanted to prove, okay, you don't have to just be a baseball coach. You can do something else. And so right now I'm kind of in that journey, figuring out the world. I mean, yeah, man, I moved to across the world, across the planet, start a business in Indonesia, trying to make it work. It's doing pretty well. So yeah, it's a whole new adventure.
That's incredible. Do you still have contact with any former teammates, whether it's David Ortiz or your former manager and Terry Francona or anyone from the Cubs organization?
Honestly, no, not really. The Lars Anderson, I still keep in touch with. We were very close, best friends during our career. He's out in Long Beach. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company Birdman Bats at all, but I'm a part owner of this company. Also Lars is, and Gary Malik, the CEO. They're my best friends. So I stay in touch with them, but man, honestly, like, yeah, it's time zones are weird. People are growing up, things they kind of shift. So a lot of those connections, they're still there. That's how it works. It's like people have to live their lives. And, one day if life brings me back to baseball, I'm sure those connections would be pretty stable, and it would be really cool to speak to all of them.
Well, and a couple of rapid fire questions. Who would you say is your favorite teammate that you played with and why?
Oh man, that's good. There was so many. I think I like Kevin Youkilis was really, really an amazing teammate. He he loved to hang out with me and Lars. He really enjoyed like mentoring the rookie guys, making them feel comfortable, taking us out to dinner, talking crap, talking about life, the game, whatever. But man, it's hard to pick a favorite, truly.
Playing in the outfield uh could be a little intense, hearing a lot of hecklers in the stands. What was probably the either the worst thing or funniest thing you probably heard someone say to you? And it probably had to come from Yankee Stadium, if we're being honest.
Yeah, there was a lot. I wouldn't really say anything like too hateful, nothing insane. But what I love to do, if like I heard somebody say like you suck or you're crap, whatever, I would just like look at them and do this little wave just to like let them know that I heard, but also that like I just think you're funny, and it's just like it's a part. I mean, if you're getting heckled at Yankee Stadium, you're doing something right. So why really take it personally?
And I'll end one more question. besides your World Series rings, the two of them that you have, what
Mm.
do you have any other memorabilia that you were able to snatch during your time in the league?
Yeah, so I would say three things. I have both. I have my first home run ball from Yankee Stadium, and then I have my first grand slam at Fenway, those balls. And then the other thing, I know it's actually pretty normal to, like, let's say, yeah, the Red Sox are playing the Yankees, and you want an autograph from a player on the other team. You can get it pretty simply. For whatever reason, I didn't really want to do that too much. It just felt like, playing against them was enough. But with Derek Jeter, I have, I got him to sign something. It's at my parents' house, framed, because that was the one that was like so crazy for me to play against that guy. So it was hard for me to resist getting his jersey signed.
What was that conversation like when you talked to Jeter?
Oh man, it was cool. It was right in the middle of the game. I was on second base. Um, yeah, and he comes up to me. Actually, it was 3 games after my first home run, and he like comes up. He puts his hand on my shoulder, and he says, "Hey man, congrats on hitting your first home run here. It must have been so cool to do that near your hometown and with your family here." So this guy was paying attention to all the little stories happening to make people feel really cool. So yeah, it was like, wow, like, you really know that? Like, how did like, why do you know that? And that was him. He just an ambassador to the sport, wanted people to feel good, wanted them to feel welcome and happy. So yeah, man, that was cool.
And when one last question, when you got your home run balls, the grand slam at Fenway and your first home run at Yankee Stadium, usually there's always some type of trade to get the ball back from the fan who caught it. What did you have to give up to get your balls back?
Oh man, nothing, because I hit them both into the bullpens. So
Oh,
no fan caught these balls. It was very lucky for me. No trading, just got the ball straight away.
Ryan, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the start of your day. This has been another
Yeah.
edition of the Sports Roundup. Special thank you to Ryan Kalish. Until next time, this is the Sports Roundup, and I'm your host, Brandon Glogau.